We are live. Hello. Hello.
Hi.
Hello. Martine is here.
Hello, Martine.
Um,
How are you handling this heat? Because I am not.
we are here for the Throwback Book Club live show for May and June, which was a collection of Sarah DESSEN books. We read That Summer, which is Sarah DESSEN's very first book. We read Just Listen, which I feel like is maybe her most popular book, I would say. And
I'd argue that.
For the Ride, which is the one with the movie adaptation. So I know there were some choices that we missed that we will maybe next summer we'll do another round of Sarah DESSEN's and get to everyone's favorites, but you know.
Honestly, I thought this was so successful that I'd be more than happy to revisit Sarah DESSEN when we need a pick-me-up series.
Yeah. Hi, Kayla. Kayla says someone like you. I remember Martine was saying their favorite was, I can't remember what they said. The Truth About Forever, I think.
And then I really want to read this lullaby.
Mm.
So that would be like a good 3.
A good 3, yeah. So yeah, we're here to discuss, but well, maybe we should wait a couple more minutes for people to come in before we announce our next picks.
Yes. Yeah, if you want to remind about the movie though.
Oh yeah, so like I just said, Along for the Ride is the one with the movie adaptation, and we are going to be watching that movie together in the Discord. Date TBD, but watch the movie watch-alongs channel in the Discord for that date.
I think it'll be solidly by the end of July.
Yeah, we'll get there. But I've actually already seen it. I saw it when it came out, but I guess we'll get into it, but Along for the Ride was the only one that was a reread for me, and I read it for the first time in 2022 when the movie came out, because it was like nostalgic for one of my friends, and she was like, I want to watch this movie, and I was like, I'll watch it with you, but I want to read the book first. So I read the book and then we watched the movie. So that's like kind of recent for me. I never read any Sarah DESSEN growing up.
I'm actually so excited to discuss these too. Yeah. I just thought it was overall a very successful triplet that we chose.
Mm-hmm. The characters from this lullaby made an appearance in Just Listen. I love the crossovers that Sarah DESSEN does in all of her books.
I can't notice any of them, but I love it.
They're like all set in the same place, kind of, right? Like
Kobe, I think so, or like near there.
Yeah, the mall, the Lakeview Mall models were in multiple. Okay, are we ready to announce the very next pick? So for July and August, we will be reading. Do you want to say it?
The Summer I Turned Pretty by Jenny Han. The entire Summer I Turned Pretty series.
It's just a trilogy, right?
Correct. And they're pretty small, all 3 of them.
Okay. So I have never read these or watched the show, but
I reread them all again in pretty recently. I probably will read them again. I've read them a couple times. You would be disturbed by how many times I've watched the show.
Really?
On repeat.
Wow.
On repeat. It is perfect vibes, an amazing adaptation. Jenny Han was we won't get into too much about it, but she was super active in it. So it's just I think it's really well done.
Well, awesome. I'm excited then. We'll probably watch like one episode of the show, maybe 2 if we have the time and can organize it. But we'll definitely start it.
Prime show. So
it's on Netflix, right?
It's on, I believe, Amazon. It's a Prime show.
Oh, Amazon is a Prime show. Okay. Martine loved Sarah Dessen, still a Sarah Dessen girly. Love that. We will definitely do another round. I'm excited. Of Sarah Dessen's next summer, maybe. Already read the first one for Wonderthon, so you're ahead. Nice.
Amazing.
Haven't watched the show, but I need to. Well, we will get you started.
And then the last season, they are still like actively working on, so that'll be fun to like. We'll be caught up, and then the last season will come out. It'd be fun.
Yeah. Shall we get into discussing these books?
I'm excited.
Which one should we start with? I know that people read them in different orders.
I personally would want to do chronological because that's how I read them.
Like in
like
publication order? Yeah, so that summer first.
Yep.
So
released in 1996.
Yeah, this was Sarah Dessen's debut. Had anyone read this one before? I know it's like, I mean, probably Martine has, but was this a reread for you or no?
I think it was a first time. I don't see, I'm looking right now. Yeah, it doesn't say. So I either read it and forgot about it, so I never marked it when I was younger, or I hadn't read it. I didn't remember a ton, so I'd say it was probably new.
Yeah, this one was new for me. They were all new for me, except Along for the Ride, like I said. Hi, Bailey. We are here. Bailey didn't read that summer. Martine had read this one, so it was a reread, and Bailey had never read that one. What did you think? What did you rate it, first of all?
I gave it a 4-star, a 4 out of 5.
I have to look it up on my Bookly because I don't. I gave it 3 stars.
Oh, I lied. I gave it a 4.25. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. Wow. This was my least favorite of the bunch. I thought it was just kind of okay.
I gave a lot of leeway for it being a debut, but I think I just enjoyed how much quintessential Sarah Dessen I saw in it. Like, there was so much that I was like, oh, I love what she does with it later. And as a whole, I thought she had brought up more difficult topics, especially for a 96 novel for teens.
Yeah.
Not like anything crazy. Like I said, it was a short summer girls experience, but I just thought that it was like her growing up, a lot of thoughts that I thought were really interesting to read.
Martine said the exact thing that I was thinking. Martine gave it a 3.5 and was worried the whole time that something would happen with that actual adult man. And I also thought that was the direction it was going. I was like, I don't know. I've been rewatching Pretty Little Liars, and like that happens so many times in that show. So I guess I was just primed to like be afraid of that. And I really thought that was the direction it was going in. And I was like, I guess I was relieved that it didn't, obviously, but I also was like, it felt like it was too going in that direction for me.
If it's okay, I'm going to take a little step back real quick for those that did not get to this one.
Oh yeah,
the first novel, it's a short little 200-pager about a 15-year-old girl who's almost 6 feet tall, so she's having some body issues with that, which I related to in different ways. I thought that was really good placement of that experience. And then so her perfect sister, her older sister, is getting married, and they're planning her wedding, and then her dad just got remarried, right? So I'm looking at the description while I'm describing it. So then while our main character Haven is like just dealing with this whirlwind of growing up and all this stuff, she runs into her sister's ex-boyfriend, and it's kind of her reflecting on how the past used to be and what she remembers versus what really happened.
Yeah, like that summer that her sister dated this guy is like the golden summer in her memory, and that it was like perfect, and she doesn't know why. She never really knew why her sister and the guy broke up, and so the guy was always really nice to her and like played with her and stuff when she was little. So that's what that summer, it's like that summer. in her memory.
I feel like part of why I enjoyed reading it so much was, first of all, I did like the length. I'm happy she did not draw it out. It felt really to the point. It just was well paced. But then as like the significantly younger sibling, my siblings are like 15 years older than me, 7 to 15 years. I could relate so much to just having a different idea of what things used to be like and what they are now, and just seeing like my siblings move on in a way and being stuck while also dealing with like body issues that they didn't have to deal with and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I just found it really relatable.
Okay. Yeah. I did like the kind of the summary vibes of all of these, but it's just so fun to read them like this time of year. I enjoyed the wedding planning stuff. I thought that was funny and like because that's where I am. I'm not like that close, you know, but I thought that was funny. Martine says, I was never envious of the summer my brother had. So, yeah, I kind of feel this like, how much older is your brother, Martine? I feel like we maybe have a similar age gap to my older brother and myself.
A lot of my childhood was my sibling feeling perfect and me not. So I just really could connect to that. And then when her sister would have like just these moments of emotional immaturity, I thought that was so interestingly done too. When she would just be like a complete brat for a minute, and the way that the family reacted, I thought was really realistic.
Yeah. 4 years. My brother's 3 years older than me. So I feel like you don't like look up to them the same way if it's like as a larger age gap.
Yeah, I wonder if it's interesting too, because Emmett is similar. He's very close in age to his sibling. And like they're way closer, I'd say, than my siblings and I really were.
Yeah. This one just kind of was just okay for me, I think, because of the reasons we've talked about. And also I just didn't feel like there was a lot of substance to it. But
yeah, I think that's really fair.
Yeah.
I think for me, it was a lot of rose-colored glasses of just being able to relate and then enjoying it. But I do think there's so many things that you can see her continue in her other books. Usually a parent getting remarried in some way, that summer vibe, the dealing with some sort of issue of oneself, and
yeah,
it's like I could see this as like a small version of the books to come, but not in a way where they always feel repetitive. Like she finds a way to make each girl feel unique.
Yeah. Kayla, I gotta say I love you and Brandon's relationship
so much.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. And I wonder if I had read more of them or read them like more closer together. If they would feel repetitive, but I agree that like these three did not feel repetitive to me. Even though they have similar kind of themes. And yes, Martine, your twin perspective is different. Do you have anything else to say about this one, or should we move on?
No, I just think that if you are a fan of her books, it's worth giving it a shot.
Worth reading.
Yeah.
At least like see where she came from, kind of.
And like I said, 96 was a different time for young adult literature. So.
Yeah. The next one I read, and the next one in publication order is Just Listen.
Me too.
This one I really enjoyed. Like I was kind of shocked actually how much I enjoyed it. I gave it 4.5 stars, which is like really, really crazy for me for a YA actually. Especially one that doesn't have the nostalgia factor for me. I just really
published in 2006.
Yeah.
That's so exciting. I love that you love
Yeah, so it was like really, it was really good for me. How about you?
I have read this before. This is one that I'm going to say the same thing for Along for the Ride, but this is one that really, rereading it, super transported me back. I could remember a lot, but then there was a lot that like didn't stick as hard when I was younger that I was like, whoa, this is really great. I gave it a 5-star.
Mm-hmm.
Probably gave it a 5-star back then as well. Absolutely loved it. I think I would argue like I could totally see a 4.5. It wasn't like perfected literature, but I
Mm-hmm.
loved it. I thought
Yeah.
it was really complex and really great.
Yeah. This is a fun story. One time, someone asked Brandon if we were twins. He was a junior in high school.
That's so funny.
That is funny. Martine also read them in publication order, but not on purpose. 5 stars from Martine.
Yes. Martine and I've said this before, Martine and I don't agree on books unless it's books about like friendships and relationships. Then we can like vibe.
Yeah. Just Listen was one of my favorites. It was the only one of those 3 that I owned, but she's only halfway through the reread. But what are you feeling this time around so far? It was so different reading it as an adult, especially as a person whose partner has very different taste in music from me. Yeah, I enjoyed the music talk partly because like it was like not relatable to me in that like music when I was growing up, like I liked music, but it was never like that big of a thing for me. That I like really like it just wasn't that much of a big deal. And so I enjoyed that like kind of look into what I think it is relatable for a lot of people.
Yeah, I thought it was great. It was so funny. Them like burning CDs did make me laugh a lot. So it was just like, wow, you don't do that anymore. I remember doing that, but you don't do that anymore. Now you're like making Spotify playlists, which is also fun.
Yeah.
But I thought it was great too. Yeah, the music part I definitely enjoyed. I just never totally love music in books. I do love music. I go to so many concerts. Like I grew up in choir. I do have a strong connection to it, but that part didn't really stand out for me as much as the eating disorder stuff going on.
Hate the familial not discussing anything situation. That one was relatable to me. That part was
so realistic. So realistic.
But I felt like it was handled. It was like resolved, but also not. Like it was resolved, but it also was like not. I felt it was very realistic, is what I'm gonna say. Really liking it. Think it will be rated highly again. CD burner. I'm too young for that a little bit.
Oh, sad.
But also I wasn't like into music in that way. I was like YouTube to MP3 download onto my iPod. That's my era. Pre Spotify, but
that's so funny.
Loved the discussions about anger and mental health. Yeah, I loved Owen as a character. I thought he was like a really, really good, well-written character, especially for like a 2006 YA book boyfriend. Like, I thought he was very well fleshed out. He was like actually like had a healthy relationship with like his masculinity, and it just was like, yeah, I thought, and it was, yeah.
I loved him so much too, and the way that Sarah Dessen did his actual, like, he is dealing with anger issues and not just painting him as like a bad boy in a romance story, but like just a young boy who's dealing with some serious emotional things. And the way that the main character, they grew to use those for like positive conversations to have and how to have like actual talk, like trying to get her to talk about her feelings by pushing her to, like, when they would like use one of his little lessons. I just loved it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I liked the like lingo that they picked up from his anger management class. The like, that's a placeholder, and like, what is it? What were the other ones? Like R&R, rephrase and redirect. I thought that it like the way that it helped him so much, but it also helped her talk about her own stuff.
I honestly have thought about that placeholder language in my own life since reading this, of just like when I'm nervous talking to my boss about something, I was like thinking through what are words I can use that are stronger, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, as an adult teenager, she's still making me learn.
The way she spoke about her mom's depression episode, I was like, am I causing childhood trauma? No, you're a good mom.
Well, every parent is causing childhood trauma. You just try to do less.
Martine says I burned a CD like 3 years ago. I actually I do own a CD because I bought a K-pop album and they always come with a CD, but I don't know how I would play one. Like, I don't have a player.
The way you said you own a CD.
Yeah, I own a CD that I purchased within the last year.
I still have a good handful. I've definitely gotten rid of a lot of mine, but I still have a good handful of CDs.
But I never had CDs. Like, I guess I did when I was really little. I had a CD player that I had audiobooks on CD in the car that I would listen to in the car. I would listen to audiobooks on CD. We would get like it would be like a binder basically of like all the CDs, the 8 CDs in the audiobook. And I did have those and it's like a portable CD player that I would listen to in the car. When I was little.
I do think this could lead to an interesting conversation for maybe, I don't know if this live shows that moment, but the way obsolete media in general and the way companies create, like the fact that cars are being built to not have CD players now and how that leads to obsolete technology. Spotify just got in trouble where they're like dealing with some things.
Oh, yeah.
They made that thing for the car that Nick actually uses. And they're purposely they're just purposely going to stop making it work.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're like getting in trouble for causing waste. But interesting conversations.
Yeah. Sarah Dessen books are the only YA books I had growing up where they genuinely emphasized communicating better. In The Truth About Forever, no spoilers for The Truth About Forever because we're going to read it next summer, right? They have a game to help them be vulnerable. I like that. I feel like I could have used Sarah Dessen when I was a young teen. I could have used these books.
Yeah, I can't imagine not having it. I kind of think I would probably pretty much equate her to a lot of our parents' generation's Judy Blume.
Where I did read Judy Blume.
I think was similar, where she dealt with some topics, but Sarah Dessen just did it differently, more modernized, stuff like that.
Yeah, like I don't own a CD except for the one that was in the K-pop album that I bought. Because those always come with CDs, and they're like, I feel like no one ever actually plays them on the CD because, like, why would you? Even when music was online, it was cheaper to buy CDs and be able to play them multiple places. That makes sense. But also, like, I didn't have, like, a car. Like, in the car, I would just listen on my little iPod Nano. I had the one with the click wheel. It was, like, this big, and it was, like, a little click wheel. My purple iPod Nano that I was obsessed with.
I've seen people using them as barrettes now, and I think that's so cute.
Actually, this is I may have told you guys this already, but this is like Lizzie lore. I was so obsessed with my iPod Nano that I dressed up as it for Halloween. Like, I built an iPod Nano costume out of a cardboard box, and I was the iPod Nano for Halloween.
I'm obsessed with you.
I need to get a picture. I need to find a picture of that. I will do that for you guys and find my iPod Nano costume. I'd have to ask my mom probably, but yeah. Anyway, this was a good book. I enjoyed it.
Yeah. I thought that the scene where her older sister is trying to express to her parents what her other sibling is going through with this eating disorder was such a difficult scene, but so universal.
And
I thought
the way
it was
the
just done
parents
so well.
so did not want to hear it was really like relatable in a bad way to me.
Did you struggle to? What did you think of her parents in general?
I thought, let me think about that question. Because I'm trying to like distinguish this one from the other parents in the other book.
That's fair. That's fair. I'm gonna eat watermelon too.
Nice. I feel like they were very average to me. Like, they didn't make me mad the way the parents in Along for the Ride did, but they also were not like great, you know? They were like, yeah, that the only part that's really standing out to me about them is them like really not wanting to listen to the oldest sister about the middle sister. I can't remember their names.
I can definitely respect that. I would say though that I felt pretty similar. They felt pretty average, which I will say is a universal experience to have parents that are figuring it out along the way and are making mistakes. What I did like though is it never felt like they didn't care. They just didn't really want to accept what was going on, which I don't think is, you know, necessarily better.
Yeah.
But it didn't feel like they never cared. Even when like she was making the food and learning that she could eat, maybe just, you know, changing the types of food she's eating if it helps her, that kind of stuff. And the dad like still making himself eat it, even though he was nervous.
Yeah. I feel like, okay, so this comment from Martine, I think most of them are genuinely trying. I hesitate to call them bad parents, but they're a source of frustration for the main characters always. I think that that's realistic. Like, all parents are causing frustration in ways that are good. Like, obviously, like, your parents are going to make you do things you don't want to do that are good for you, but also going to cause some trauma. Like, that just is the way it is. And that doesn't make them bad people or bad parents. Like, unilaterally, it's just like
every kid has unique issues, and every issue
and every
way one parent handles it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I just think it's interesting too, because this, I think I'd be interested to like see through all of her writing, but of the three we read, this is the only ones where the parents are like together and their relationship is not a striking point.
Yeah. I do think it's especially good because it always gets addressed by the end, and that shows kids reading these that you can work through those things. Yeah. And it shows that like parents are people who are fallible as well, but are able to learn.
I think the biggest other point you'd want to touch on, because, you know, I think the eating disorder representation was done very well. I think it was a very complex thing that they were dealing with. I personally have never dealt with that form of eating disorder, but I've had my own issues, and I thought that she did it. Sarah Dessen did it with clearly some research and compassion. I think everything she did with this book felt researched and felt like she was intentional with everything she included, even as far as the sexual assault. I thought that
we haven't even touched on that.
Exactly. I thought that I remembered this book because I remember when we chose this one, I was like, I remember there being something more intense happening to the main character. And so I did remember that. And when it finally like got to that point of it happening, I was remembering like why it stuck with me so much, and how it affected the character. And
yeah,
I thought that, like I said, I just think it all felt very intentionally well done.
It was reminding me, I was thinking about this like the other day, that like, do you know Lori? I don't know how to say her name.
Lori Anderson.
She has Speak, which is like a similar theme. And then she also has one about an eating disorder that was very triggering to me as a child. Like, it was a bad choice for me to read it at age 13 or whatever, because it was really... I felt like this was handled with a lot more grace and a lot more like in more of a healthy way for young kids to be reading. Then I don't really have strong memories about Speak, but the Winter Girls is the one about the eating disorder, and that was really awful for me to read as a youngin.
You kind of saying that just makes me think, like, comparing Speak, because Speak is one that I was assigned to read in school. I know that that's not the one you're talking about.
Yeah.
But I think even in opinion in general, when I think like what impacted me more, it would be Just Listen over Speak. I did love Speak, don't get me wrong.
I feel like I don't remember much about Speak, but I feel like they have a very similar like of like someone being the girl's ostracized. You don't know exactly what happened to her. Turns out that's what it was.
Yeah, the main characters just are impacted very, very differently, but it does take away both of them their comfort and ability to speak. One character, the one in Speak, chooses not to speak at all. And then in this book, the main character struggles to get her emotions out.
Yeah.
But it kind of reminds me, I was listening to a little bit of an interview with, I believe her name is Ellen Hilderbrand. She is
I know
popular beach author.
Yeah.
And she was doing an interview, and this is her last book she's gonna like write. That's gonna be
really?
The newest one she released. She said it's gonna be the last one. And she was really impacted when she was talking about it. She like started getting emotional. And she said that people really look down on beach reads and look down on, you know, books that can be perceived as more light and fluffy, but they do deal with dark, like deeper topics. And she was really appreciative because she had a fan who said, like, your book helped me as an escape when I was in the hospital. And it just, to me, that reminds me a lot of Sarah Dessen, where I feel like she was so, you see the covers and they're so beachy and they're so girly and they're so, you know, maybe fluffy, but then they have so much deeper escapism going on in them.
Yeah. I did read an Ellen Hilderbrand and did not like it, but but no, like she is very valid for saying that. I know a lot of people love her books.
And I don't think she tries to put deeper things in the way Sarah Dessen does, but just the bigger idea of like what certain audiences are reading and how that's perceived by other people.
Yeah. The only other thing I have to say about Just Listen is that I'm so glad he got punched in the end. The dude, I don't remember his name. So glad he got punched in the end. I feel like I also felt like that was handled very well, that like it's really satisfying for us as readers to have that happen, but it's also for the teen audience. It's not like this was a good thing for him to like, it was still, Owen was still having consequences for it. Because that's not an effective or like not a mature way of dealing with something, but it still was so satisfying for us to have that happen.
I totally agree. I thought it was just, I'm happy we were all in like pretty similar consensus on this one.
Shall we move along?
Yeah.
Along for the ride. I like this one medium amount. I gave it 4 stars. I think I liked it more than when I read it a couple years ago because I just am in a better position to be reading YA now than I was 2 years ago. Like I have more distance from that time in my life, and so it's like easier to engage with it. But yeah, I enjoyed this one. Thoughts?
I gave this one 5 stars, 4.5 stars, 5 stars. I went up just what I could. Actually, this one was really the one where I was like, this is Sarah Dessen's beachy atmosphere at her best. This, I think, is really one of her more successful ones. I think it's just a very well-rounded story. The thing I'll say, other than That Summer, because that's kind of the outlier here, both of these books that we read I thought were so interesting in how much time they kind of spanned. For being relatively shorter reads, I was impressed by how much story we get.
Bailey is behind, but please still comment like you're watching it live. I want to see your comments.
Also speed us up. Speed us up to catch up.
Hi, Jess. 5 stars for Martine. One of the most nostalgic Sarah Dessen books for me. Love this for you and Michaela. I'm so excited for you to watch the movie. Like, I'm so excited to see what you think of the movie.
I have not seen the movie ever. I had no idea it existed until you told me.
Yeah. Because from what I remember of it, it was like pretty okay. Like, it wasn't incredible adaptation, but yeah. I asked my mom about the iPod Nano costume, and she's trying to. I need to remember what year it was, but I will figure that out, and then I will drop it in the chat when I get that picture. Lasting difference on your vocabulary. Snack bang you talked about. Atmosphere impeccable.
Yes, it felt like I was on a boardwalk.
I agree with this.
Amazing.
Classic Sarah Dessen larger friend group situation. Yeah, I liked this, and I felt like each of the characters actually had personalities, and we actually got to know, which is hard to do with a large friend group. We actually got to know, like, and each one had an arc, even if it was just an arc inside the main character's head. You know how, like, Maggie, I think Maggie was the, like, our main character. What's our main character's name?
Aubrey? Auden.
How Auden, like, what she initially thought of each of these people versus how she thought of them at the end.
And the way that the friendship, like, the way it still forms, and I think is done maturely when, I mean, it starts because she slept with one of their, or not slept with, excuse me, hooked up, but with one of the ex-boyfriends of one of the girls.
Yeah.
And so, and the fact that that happens, but it's, like, handled pretty maturely, where the girls are like, you didn't know, is great. I thought it was just so, like, the fact you can still feel that connection is amazing.
Yeah. By the end of Just Listen, the group had expanded, but a lot of that one was just the main character and Owen. And this one had such a large and distinct cast. I agree. And I also loved Heidi.
I wanted to talk about her so freaking bad.
Yeah.
She's amazing.
She's awesome. And I like how Auden had this journey with how she felt about her, but she was also such a distinct character on her own, dealing with her own stuff.
What I loved, this is kind of why when I read that summer, the dad getting remarried, there are moments that are similar with our main character and the new stepmom, where the mom is kind of like, oh, he's like just this hot new wife he had, blah, blah, blah. And the main character is always, like, skeptical of the stepmother. And I love this one because it just really puts so much humanity to the stepmother. And it really makes her a full-fledged character in the story. It was so cool to see, because usually I feel like it's like, oh, the dad, like, especially in this Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, if you've ever read or watched those. I hope we get to them.
I'm sure we will.
There's, like, a dad who remarries, and the mom, like, it's kind of like a negative relationship. It was so nice to see a positive relationship with the stepmom where they could team up on the dad sucking.
Yeah. Martine says, I loved Eli, obviously, but I also loved the time he spent with so many other people. And Just Listen, I kept being like, why isn't Owen here? I feel like Eli was much less of a strong love interest than Owen was. But also, I feel like it wasn't to the detriment of the book. Like, we could still, there was so much else going on as well.
I think Sarah Dessen is so good at making a love interest that is what the character needs in the moment. Because I wouldn't say Auden needed a boyfriend. What she needed was friends to help her more comfortable in herself, and, you know, the girlfriends to help her know that she doesn't need to be more stuffy or feel like she has to follow the mother's role that her mom created for her of, like, a woman. And Eli was just, like, a positive experience for them too. They both grew in, like, other ways together, but it wasn't like what she needed to grow. as much as the friends.
I like that you say that like it's what the character needs at the time, like very good match for the character, but also the love interests in this and Just Listen both had their own arcs as well, which I felt like, so they weren't like manic pixie dream boys, you know, like they had their own stuff going on.
Because like in Just Listen, she really needed someone to get her, like, to pull it out of her slowly and to get her sharing her feelings. And this one, it was her learning that what her feelings even are and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. For Sarah Dessen, the love part of it is also always a side effect of the way the characters help each other grow. And love as a side effect is like everything to me. I love that.
I love how at the end the entire prom thing goes. Mm-hmm. Obviously, my heart was sad for Auden, but I loved how when she asked him and he said no, and like just dealing with the back and forth of that. And then you kind of see the beautiful resolution though when they go to school and you see them still being there for each other and each attending university. Oh, sorry, this is a little off topic too. I loved her getting like put in her place about the fact that women like Maggie can still get into smart colleges.
Yeah.
Like her having to come to terms with like, yeah, there are normal girls who like other things that can still be very smart.
Her growth was like, I think, really good for a lot of young teens to hear. The kind of bookish, like, not like the other girls type girls need to read this, you know?
And then, but her mother too, I hated her mother. I hated her mother
too, a lot.
So much. So much. I like the way that her mother grows. I do think that was really great. By the end of the story, her being more like, we're working on things. She's trying to learn how to share her own emotions too. But yeah, I hated her mom. I hated her dad the whole time also.
I hated her dad, but her dad didn't get me in the like anger as much as her mom did.
Her mom was driving me nuts.
Yeah. Teaching young people that love is not about love at first sight, but about challenging each other and changing and growing and accepting. Yeah. Can we all boo Jason, the wet noodle who stood her up twice? Yeah, no, the worst.
I knew in high school though, I knew boys who thought about school being that important, like for sure. I didn't get impacted by them, but I could think of boys who would
I was that person in high school.
Oh, Lizzie.
Not as much of an asshole, I hope, but I was that person. No, I was maybe more like Auden until like the way Auden was in high school, like not, but I also did have a friend group. Like I did socialize. I didn't go to prom, but that was like a conscious choice because I did other things with my friends instead. So, you know, but I was very, very into the school thing. Along for the Ride I read, and it was a reread, but it's not a favorite. Okay.
Martine, don't try to.
Yeah, I've met many a man like that going to a school like I did. I did not care at all about like teenage life, but I was interested in WTF was wrong with her parents. Yeah, no, her parents were the worst.
I was also surprised. Go ahead.
I feel like her mom shared traits with my dad a little bit, and that's why she made me so mad.
You know, like the Arthur fist of just
yeah.
I was so surprised because Bailey talks about she didn't care about the teenage life. She's so much older than I remembered. Like she's like
she's
18,
older than
staying out all night.
Yeah, she's post high school, which like is not the case for That Summer or Just Listen.
I just didn't remember her being that much older, but it just surprised me. Mm-hmm. And then her like literally Heidi that one night, she's like, I know you're not actually here all night. What are you doing?
Yeah.
But I like that it was still though like not. it still would be YA to me. Like I wouldn't put this in new adult. I think it was really
no,
like,
it definitely has
like
YA themes.
But I was just surprised by how much more. I guess every book I've been surprised by some of the maturity that I didn't expect.
Yeah. Oof, I actually felt like I wasn't keeping track of who people were, but I listened to the audiobook. I'm actually interested. Did you eyeball read them all, audio some of them, hybrid?
I was audio all of them.
Audio all of them. Interesting. I eyeball read the first two, and then I audioed Along for the Ride. But the first time I read Along for the Ride a couple years ago, I did eyeball. So I think like if Along for the Ride wasn't a reread, like a recent reread, I may have had a harder time keeping the characters apart.
I only felt confident doing it because I remembered them pretty much too well.
The thing I never related to about Sarah Dessen was how out and about these characters were. Most relatable, not being able to ride a bike.
I love that.
Martine eyeball read all three. I feel like that is the way to go, but personally. But I did audio Along for the Ride during my 24 and 48.
No, that's good to know. I'll probably try and do physical for the next session of Sarah Dessen then. Give them a shot physically. But I thought they were good audiobooks. I didn't feel like I was particularly... They weren't amazing ones where I was like, you should read it this way. But they were fun. Yeah. The stories aren't... While they're interpersonally complicated, they're not like crazy complex to...
Yeah. I felt nothing towards.
I wouldn't say I felt very much for him either.
I think he's much more of like a classic YA book boyfriend than Owen was.
I can agree with that. But like I do like how I think it was Martine though had mentioned how, or you might have mentioned it about them dealing with such of their other issues though.
Yeah.
Like their own
stuff.
Issues. And it was interesting to see how he felt comfortable with Auden just because she was someone who didn't know and didn't care. Mm-hmm. And then when she does find out, and it takes him a while to like open up again.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like this one, sadly, I feel like there's less to talk about for this one, which is interesting.
Yeah, I am really looking forward to rewatching the movie with you guys. I think, like, especially people who have a lot of nostalgia towards Sarah Dessen and towards her atmosphere and like this book, I'm like excited to see what people think of this movie.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, I'm totally down to, I'm sure we'll be in the chat a lot and discussing this, but I'd like to find a day it can all work. Even if it means waiting a little bit, like that's totally cool with me.
I do like that more quiet companionship that is comforting and like good times. And the quest was sweet. The quest have Auden live her childhood.
Yeah, I love that. And I like what Martine is saying too, because it reminds me of Bridgerton stuff. But there's a character romance right now where it's more was them feeling companionship in the silence versus an over-encompassing, heart-bursting love. And I do think that that's a good lesson for teens to read about, especially when you're at such a hormonal age that you want everything to be intense. It's good to see that sometimes like you want that friendship and you want someone who cares enough to help you study in the cafe before class and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay, can we play an interesting game?
Sure.
For the last few minutes? Well, I guess for the first book it doesn't really work, but I feel like these would be interesting books to... we should just do it for books in general now. Sorry.
Okay.
Do we think the couple would still be together?
Oh, like would they last?
Fun one. Yeah.
I feel like the Auden and Eli, I don't think they would last through college.
I agree.
Because I think it's hard I mean, I know we have someone here who is with their high school sweetheart, but I also am. Two people here who are with their high school sweetheart. I almost forgot. But I feel like it's hard to have your relationship last through college because you grow so much. And if you're not actually physically together, or even if you are, it's like really, you just change so much and it's so easy to grow apart.
I also think it's kind of toxic to And I say this like even as someone myself who like fought for it so hard to stay together with my high school partner. It's a very toxic mentality that you're not going to meet someone else who can be perfect for you.
Yeah.
Because there's like a lot of like shows when they're like, okay, Bluey. I'm sorry I keep relating to this other media that I like. But people are like, oh, who is she gonna have babies with when she's older? And they're like fan casting her with the other puppies in her kindergarten class. And I'm like, or she could grow up and not talk to any of them anymore. And like people don't stick with the same people they knew their entire lives. That doesn't always mean that's how it's gonna work.
I feel like if, in terms of the Just Listen relationship, if they were older, like if they were in like had met older, I feel like the relationship could last. However, knowing that they're like 16, I just don't know. I feel like that relationship has more of a chance.
I think they could stay together. Personally, I think they could.
But maybe. So maybe on Owen and what's her name? But Annabelle. But no on Eli and Auden.
Wow, her name was Annabelle? I don't remember that.
I
just don't remember it. Oh, we forgot to mention this third one was 2009. So 10 years between the first two we read, and then only 3 years between the second two.
I think both couples could or not. Yeah. I mean, yeah. And we'll never know because they're fictional.
I can't wait to do that conversation for The Summer I Turned Pretty. That'll be a fun little.
Okay. Bailey's still behind, which I love. Audioed along for the ride. So actually I saw you audio along for the ride on my library card. I probably just listened because you own it.
Can we go back a little bit to Martine's just so we can touch on it a little bit?
Yeah.
How the quest was very precious to them. I know you kind of said that like you love the quest and stuff. I just wanted to touch on it again. I thought it was so sweet too. I loved her learning how to ride the bike, but then when they also go to like, where is it? The bowling alley? Is that where they go? And
I like the bowling
for the first time.
Yeah.
And then when they go to the club and he's like, listen, I just want her to go in.
Yes.
So they don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
And I like that too because, sorry, go ahead if you want. I'm just excited.
No, go ahead.
I like that too because it just shows that like, you can still have a good time and it wasn't just drinking and partying. Like, it's just, as a kid who just didn't do that stuff, I don't think it took away from my experience as a kid. But then she also doesn't like not drink ever or anything. Like, she still does. But they're not necessarily always trying to go out because they're staying up late. There's still that innocence to it of them just trying to fulfill her childhood, not do things that are a little spicy for Sarah Desson.
The one thing I want to keep most of like how the movie adaptation is up to we'll see it. But the one thing I will say that I remember about the movie is that the quest plotline is way more at the forefront than it is in the book. Fun.
That's exciting. That's cute. I like that they chose that to focus on.
That's at least what I remember of it. That reminds me when she jumps the curb and he's like, did you practice that? That was funny.
Yeah. This was so fun. I honestly can't wait to read them again. I don't know if I want to wait a whole summer. I'm going to try. These were fun.
Yeah, though I feel like we have to read them in the summer. It just is not going to hit the same any other time of year.
So, right, but it was so fun.
This was really fun. This was a good live show.
I'd say I loved Hunger Games. Could have done without Beautiful Creatures, but I'm back on board with Sarah Desson.
Yeah, though I'm glad we did. I'm glad I reread Beautiful Creatures because I did have that strong nostalgia factor.
Yeah. Well, that's so crazy because, like, it's interesting because we both had nostalgia for Hunger Games. You had it for Beautiful Creatures, and then I had it for Sarah Desson.
Yeah.
And then we're back to, like, me actively in my Summer I Turned Pretty obsessions. This is fun. Martine, Bailey, do you think you'll both be reading? I'm intrigued.
Yeah, summer of Summer I Turned Pretty, who's joining us?
Bailey needs 10 minutes to catch up.
Yeah. Well, I like this comment. Yeah. That also definitely makes a difference. So we got to stay in love.
That's so funny.
As long as it's available. Excellent.
Amazing. You might want to put a hold in.
Oh yeah. I think I looked them up and there weren't hold lists for me, but I have like 5 library cards right now. So
I'll say they also could have 1 million copies.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for joining me. Is there anything else you felt the need to say?
No, I just had a great time. I really can't wait to read the next 3.
Yeah.
I'm just excited.
This should be like a May-June tradition that we do Sarah DESSEN.
Oh, I agree.
Because there's plenty to get through. We have for years to come. There's more Sarah DESSEN.
Amazing.
Yeah, so I will see everyone in 2 months for the Summer I Turned Pretty, but watch the Discord for our Along for the Ride movie watch along, and also planning and discussing Summer I Turned Pretty through the month. I will get those chats up right after this. And thanks for
I'll try and get little social posts for the Summer I Turned Pretty sometime too, so you can like pin that little thing.
Yeah. Okay.
This was so fun. Bye.
Bye. Oh my gosh, I always click the wrong buttons.
Woo!